What's up everybody, I'm Matt Brody, and today we are doing something major with the Jeep. So turns out we gotta do some big surgery. We're replacing the engine. I have no idea how this is gonna go. Good luck to us. So basically what's going on here is there was enough oil leaks and things going on that we're gonna have to take out half the engine anyway just to replace all the gaskets and seals and all that kind of stuff. And as it turns out, it was actually fairly inexpensive to buy a brand new motor. So it's probably not normal to do this to fix engine problems, but I have a Jeepyj. And because I have a Jeepyj, we're gonna replace the engine instead of just fixing the engine, I hope. So Jeepyj.
Do you want the technical explanation of what's happening with this?
Sure, because I don't know I can't change my own oil, which is why I have a Jeepyj.
So the reason we're replacing the engine versus trying to repair it is because there's a lot of blow-by. So the oil that he was talking about is actually oil that's coming past the piston rings in the oil ring on the piston, and it's coming up through the intake and blowing oil out of the air intake and the air filter. So in order to really fix that, you've got to bore the engine slightly larger, put an oversized piston in, new pistons, new rings, and you're rebuilding the engine. Rather than doing all that, because we're limited on time and the replacement engine is so inexpensive, we're just gonna put a new one in it.
What he said. He's gonna put, I'm gonna be the gopher, really, I think is he's gonna tell me what to do and I'm gonna do my best not to mess it up.
And like I said, we're limited on time, so we're gonna get to work and hopefully we can get this done before you have to head back.
I do, yeah, we are on a time crunch because I had to drive to Bluffton to get this done and I gotta drive back at the end of the weekend, so this is a weekend warrior project for sure.
We got this.
We started by getting the Jeep up on the lift and then draining it of all of its fluids.
You probably haven't met Zuri yet. I don't know if you have. This is Zuri. Hey Zuri, come here, give me kisses. She's a good girl.
So as Matt just showed you the air filter being so dirty, this is the air box that sits over here in this corner of the engine bay, but it's full of oil. I don't know how well that is seen down there, but it's full of oil, and what's happening is the piston rings aren't sealing around the cylinder wall very well, and it's pushing oil from compression. It's pushing it back all the way up through the intake and through this PCV system. So this is a positive crankcase ventilation, and it uses vacuum from the intake system to release positive pressure on the bottom side of the engine. But that pressure, the compression pressure, is leaking past those rings, pushing oil up through this hose and into the air box, and then it's sucking it back through the air box, and it's just making a huge mess, obviously. So we're gonna have to clean this stuff up. You're gonna have to clean this stuff up very well.
I get the dirty jobs.
Ew.
Yeah, that's gross.
There's some, oh gosh, it's leaking everywhere. You got very lucky that this heater hose didn't rupture on you on your way down here, because it's very, very soft and slightly expanded, and you can see it's kind of cracking right here, which in time, without being replaced, it would eventually rupture right here, rendering this vehicle useless until it overheats, and then causing further damage. So we're going to replace that while we're here.
So what you're saying is my timing is impeccable.
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 Yes.
If nothing else, I have impeccable timing. All right, so we've gotten everything unhooked from the engine, and now it's time to bring it down, and we're gonna lift it out. So this is gonna be an interesting process to see, I think.
The old engine came out with surprisingly little difficulty. We were expecting some things to go wrong, but really nothing did. Once the engine was out of the Jeep, it was pretty late, so we decided to call it a night.
So what I'm doing now is pressure washing the inside of the engine bay, simply because it's full of grease and grime and spilled oil and all that kind of gross stuff. So we're cleaning it out using a lot of Simple Green and some scrubbing and all that kind of stuff to really kind of get in there. Then once all that's cleaned up and dry, we'll bring it back in and hopefully Beav and Trav will have most of the engine ready to get ready to install it by lunchtime. So I'm really excited about that. So this is what a dirty engine looks like. It's very gross. Travis's reaction was, eh. This is a very clean engine. This is why Beav gets to work on the clean engine. And Travis has to work on the dirty engine. And I have to clean all the parts because I don't know how to do anything else.
While I spent most of my time cleaning parts, Beav and Trav spent their time getting parts off of the old engine and onto the new engine. Really, there were no issues with that except for this one spot where this, whatever this is, wouldn't come out and Beav had to use some heat.
So I've been in the sun, cleaning parts, getting really dirty. It's hard to tell, like it's spraying up all over me. I'm dirtier than anyone else, and I'm doing the least hard job, which is probably why I'm dirtier than everyone else, because I'm not very good at this stuff. Or maybe they knew that this was the dirtiest job and they didn't want to do it. Either way, this is my lot in this project, and it's okay. I'm happy because it's all for the greater good.
One thing we did discover was a broken engine mount, and since none of the local stores had one in stock, Beav decided to fabricate one.
Well, we have reached the point where we start putting things back together. So we've got the new engine sitting there, all the cleaned old engine parts that have to go on the new engine. So now we just got to get it all put back together and then thrown back in the Jeep, and hopefully everything starts the way it's supposed to. We found a murder hornet. Oh gosh.
By the end of day 2, we had the new engine completely built, so we decided to call it a night a little bit early since we were ahead of schedule and come back the next day.
Hey guys, we're on day 3 now. We're on the final touches of the assembly of the new engine. We just put a new distributor in it because the gear on the old one that's driven from the camshaft was like super smoked and a bit sketchy. So new distributor in it, whole new ignition system. This is a new coil. We didn't put it on, but this is very new and was recently replaced. So we've got to put the plug wires in, and then we can put it back in the Jeep, and hopefully it runs well.
All right, it's sort of the moment of truth now because we're gonna put the engine in.
With the engine back in the Jeep, it was time to bolt everything in and get all the rest of the pieces installed.
So it's the moment of truth. We're gonna crank it up and see what happens. Real moment of truth now. It's supposed to start this time, so we'll see. You ready, Beav? Yeah. Here we go.
I honestly had no idea what to expect at this point. I originally thought it was going to start up on the first crank, but I was told that's not what was going to happen.
All right, take 2, here we go.
So after a couple of cranks and Beav and Trav, I guess, adjusting things in the engine, it started up.
Nice. It's running. It's running. It's so exciting. So now we just gotta let it run for a little bit, kind of warm up and break in and all that kind of stuff. But so far everything looks good.
With the engine back in the Jeep and running, it was time to do some maintenance on some other parts of the Jeep. So Beav started off by replacing the U-joints. I'd never done brakes before, so this was a learning experience for me. What's interesting about the Jeepyj is the front brakes are disc brakes and the rear brakes are drum brakes. So 2 completely different kinds of braking systems that you have to do. I didn't know how to do the drum brakes at all, and so Beav took care of that. Then it was time to remount the tires, and that's when we ran into our first big issue.
So, yeah, the very last thing that we had to do was bleed the brake lines and the clutch fluid, and that's a disaster. It's like the clutch is like not working correctly, and we're not quite sure why. So we've been here trying to figure it out for a while, trying to figure out what's going on, and now Beef's getting creative, which I'm not sure if that's a good sign or a bad sign. All right, Beef. So on a scale of 1 to MacGyver, where are you going with this?
We're over here with Joe Exotic. No, I mean, it's not super MacGyver, but I'm going to try to reverse bleed the clutch and have it, because every time you push the clutch in, it pumps fluid and then it sucks air back. I'm gonna try to prime this thing with some fluid so that on every stroke it's both pushing air and then sucking fluid, and hopefully we find some happy middle ground. But we're struggle busting with the clutch system. It's very frustrating.
Gratuitous product placement.
We took the doors off the Jeep too to make it easier for me to get out and refill the clutch reservoir as it gets lower, because this is a long process. This is way more exhausting than it looks. The legs feel like it's like P90X inside a Jeep. It's I'm getting sweaty. This is physical labor. So now it's Monday morning. Day 4. We fought this clutch problem till really late last night, and we just gave up and decided that the only fix for it was to get a new part. And so we had to wait until the store opened this morning. We got the part. Now we're going to install the part. Hopefully that part works and fixes the problem that we think we have. One of the problems. We've got problems. All right, so we replaced the clutch master cylinder. Everything did what it was supposed to do after that, so now we are taking her on her first maiden voyage after everything to kind of see how she runs. So the first drive seemed to be a success. Everything seems to be working well. Everything feels really smooth. It actually feels so much better than it did in a way that I didn't even realize how bad it had been before. But seeing what it's like now just says, wow, this feels like a brand new car. Well, that's pretty much it. I hope you liked the video. I can't wait to take you on the journey with Sue as we turn her into a Jurassic Park Jeep. First, we had to make sure she was mechanically sound, and so that's what we did this weekend. It took a little bit longer than we expected because we had some things pop up that we weren't expecting. All the stuff that we thought was going to be easy was easy, and then all the stuff that we didn't know about, didn't think about, whatever, figured out after stores had closed, kind of kept us off track a little bit. But anyway, so now I get to really test her out on a 3-hour drive back home, and that's it. So we'll see you next time. God bless, and have a good one. The engine's back in the Jeep.
It has an engine.
It has an engine. Yay! We're so dumb. Watch this. Carol Baskins
Killed her husband, whacked him.